Meanwhile, COSATU's parliamentary coordinator Matthew Park says the imposed 30% tariff hike on South African exports could lead to substantial economic harm, including job losses. He says this matter needs to be dealt with as soon as possible. The 30% tariffs on exports imposed by the United States came into effect today.
We have an economy which has barely grown 1% for the past 17 years. We have a 43% unemployment rate overall. We have a youth unemployment rate of 72%, and of course, entrenched levels of poverty, inequality, and so on. The US is our second largest trading partner. It's the world's largest economy. We have 500,000 South African jobs linked to trade with the US, linked to investment, going both ways, even from South Africa. And many of these are covered through AGOA, for example. So a 30% tariff hike not only is unaffordable for any company, they will not be competitive in the US market, but also the fact that we are at 30% and our neighboring states are all at 15%. Our economic equivalent competitors, whether it's Chile or other countries, are at 15% or thereabouts. That's a problem. We just can't afford this kind of a blow. So I think for us, it's critical that we do need to be calm, but we need to sort this crisis out. We can't afford to see a single job loss. We are very fearful about, for example, citrus farm workers from the Western Cape to Limpopo, about motor manufacturing workers from the Eastern Cape to Gauteng and KZN. We just can't afford to experiment. But what needs to be done, and what we need to do now, is to focus on the solution. The Department of Trade Industry has put it on the table with the US colleagues, a set of bold, mutually beneficial, often even exciting things that even can help create jobs in South Africa and also address the US deficit concerns and so forth. A set of package for trade. Those are good things. We think that they need to be given space to have those engaged with the US colleagues.
The former Agri SA Chief Executive Christo van der Rheede is now the Executive Director of the FW de Klerk Foundation. He joins us now via video link. Mr. van der Rheede, very good evening to you. Thanks for joining us and welcome.
Good evening to you and to all of your viewers.
Now, first of all, sir, from your perspective as both an agricultural economist and someone now immersed in constitutional and rights-based advocacy, how would you interpret the significance of the US slapping South Africa with a 30% tariff hike or import duty? Is this perhaps just a trade friction or something more, I would say, geopolitical?
I think there's a number of reasons that actually sits behind this. First and foremost, Trump has its mission to make America great again, and they hope that through the imposition of tariffs, he will achieve that particular outcome. And secondly, I think there is also punitive steps behind this because of South Africa's taking Israel to the World Court and South Africa being involved in BRICS. But it is not only South Africa that is being targeted. We've seen more than 150 countries all over the world has been subjected to Trump's tariff regime. Yeah. And this will have quite a negative impact on many countries, but it will push up the cost of products because tariffs has that kind of impact.
Now, we know that agriculture has long been a key beneficiary of AGOA preferences. So which agricultural products tend to suffer the most from these duties? And what's the likely knock-off or rather knock-on effect on the farm-level jobs and rural economies?
I think we need to contextualize this because, remember, we are very, very fortunate in that we have a very, very good agricultural sector.
True.
We are self-sufficient in terms of most of products, whether it's meat, whether it's fruits, whether it's nuts, even wool, cotton, etc. We import rice and other commodities that we don't produce, but we are self-sufficient. And we export a lot of our surpluses to Africa, to Middle East, to Asian countries, to the European Union, to Britain. And a small percentage goes to the United States. But what we need to remember is that small percentage is high premium products such as ostrich, leather, ostrich meat, also citrus from the Western Cape and Northern Cape, as well as nuts, macadamia nuts, and we also export premium wines. So certain agricultural product lines will be affected and certain areas will be affected. And that's why it's so important that we should actually look at mitigating the impact of tariffs, especially those tariffs that are being imposed by the Trump regime. And we have to start looking at, our agreements that we have in place. We have the SACU agreement, we have the African Free Trade Agreement, we have the BRICS agreement. All of these things look very good on paper. My big question is, when are we going to start implementing this? And where's the plan to make sure that there's trade, active trade between SADC, within the SADC region, on the African continent, and making sure that we protect ourselves against these type of unilateral shocks that we will experience once the tariff kicks in.
Christo, I take your point of us being self-sufficient, especially when it comes to citrus, wine, nuts, or even processed foods. But could this damage South Africa's long-term competitiveness in the U.S. supply chain, taking into consideration that these agri exports are now priced out of the U.S. market?
Indeed, it will, have that knock-on effect. But what we need to understand is that agriculture is often, or the production of certain products are, it's cyclical. In other words, when our products are ready, you'll find that other countries that the United States depend on, those countries, for example, are still growing their produce. And this is where the advantage, perhaps, and the opportunities such as South Africa to market our products, especially during peak seasons when other countries are still in the process of harvesting or in the process of growing their produce. And we should be much more strategic when it comes to this. And there are certain sectors like the raisin sector. We export our raisins to the Middle East, especially during time when they have their religious festivals, and that's where the big money sits. Planning is very, very important, but the sector cannot do it alone. The agriculture sector needs to work hand in hand with the Department of Trade and Industry and with the whole host of other role players, so that we make sure that South Africa leads in terms of the production of quality products. It's important that we deal with issues at our harbors, fix our roads, making sure that our rail systems are running effectively. Because South Africa is, far out of the mainstream of trade, international trade, and it takes some time for our products to land.
You're saying that we should be,
the United States.
You're saying that we should be strategic and apply a great deal of planning when it comes to this. But what more can we do? I mean, what other methodologies or principles can we apply, or even policies? And how should the government balance damage control on this tariff issue with the longer-term efforts to sort of diversify the export markets and build trade resilience? Are we too dependent on a single trade partner like the United States?
No, not actually, but we should leverage the opportunities that exist. Remember now, China has opened up its, has made an announcement in this regard that we can now export tariff-free. We've seen also good agreements with the European Union in place. We are exporting already to many of our African neighbors, etc. The important thing is, what do we do in terms of adding more value to the products that we export.
Yes.
My big challenge is that we export wool to China, it comes back as a finished shirt or a finished pants. And that's where the job opportunities lie. I don't want us just to export raw commodities. We need to extract more value and in the process create more jobs, and at the end of the day ensure that South Africa does not become just a dumping ground of Chinese goods. We need foreign direct investment into South Africa.
All right, Christo van der Rheede, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, former Agri SA Chief Executive Christo founder Rheede and is now the Executive Director of the FW de Klerk Foundation, sharing his thoughts about which agricultural exports stand to suffer the most from these duties and what the likely knock-on effect on farm-level jobs and rural economies will be as a result of the United States tariffs taking effect today.